Welcome back to the channel, where hidden treasures, mysterious fortunes, and mind-bending discoveries await with every story. Today's journey might just be the most jaw-dropping tale we've ever unraveled. We are diving into the unbelievable, world-shaking story of a 2003 D1-cent coin, a coin so rare, so unexpected, that it exploded into the numismatic world and rewrote the history of money forever. By the end of this story, you'll see how a simple penny, struck in the Denver Mint in 2003, ended up being worth a staggering $671 million. Yes, you heard that right, $671 million for a coin that once sat unnoticed in a pocket. It all started in the sleepy little town of Tucumcari, New Mexico. A retired railroad worker named Gerald Minton had a routine. Every Tuesday morning, he'd grab coffee from Rose's Cafe and head over to McClelland's Antiques, where he helped sort through old junk and evaluate anything that might be valuable. Gerald had always loved coins. His father, a conductor during the golden age of steam trains, used to collect oddities from across the country. Gerald had inherited the same fascination. But little did he know that one morning, his quiet hobby would lead to the discovery of a coin that would turn the coin-collecting world upside down. As he sifted through a tin box filled with buttons, tokens, and coins, Gerald's hand stopped on a copper penny. It had a strange shimmer, not the shine of polish or wear, but a metallic luster that hinted at something unusual. He turned it over. It looked ordinary enough at first glance, the Lincoln Memorial reverse, the familiar profile of Lincoln on the obverse. The year? 2003. The mint mark? D, for Denver. Nothing immediately jumped out, but the weight felt ever so slightly off, and the coloration didn't match the typical zinc-copper plating used after 1982. He slipped it into his coat pocket and decided to take a closer look at home. Later that evening, Gerald took out his jeweller's loupe and examined the coin under the warm glow of his desk lamp. That's when things started getting strange. The coin's surface was unusually smooth, but it also had microscopic ridges that didn't match the typical minting patterns. The more he looked, the more inconsistencies he found. The Liberty inscription was slightly shifted, and the 3 in 2003 was subtly malformed. And then he spotted it, something that shouldn't have been there. Just beneath the bust of Lincoln, at a precise angle that would go unnoticed by almost anyone, was a tiny mark, a faint engraving shaped like a triangle with two intersecting lines through it. Gerald had never seen anything like it. He immediately suspected it might be a mint error, or maybe even a counterfeit. But it didn't match any known fakes. Gerald reached out to an old friend, Arlene Vasquez, a coin appraiser based in Santa Fe who had worked with the Smithsonian on multiple coin research projects. When she examined the coin, she was speechless. She ran tests: weight, density, X-ray fluorescence. The composition didn't match standard post-1982 cents. Instead of being made from 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, this coin was comprised of a highly exotic metal alloy that included traces of osmium, iridium, and something she couldn't even identify. The metal alone was worth a fortune, but that wasn't the shocking part. The spectral signature of the unknown material matched a sample that had once been recovered from a Soviet satellite that crashed in Siberia in the late 1980s. Suddenly, this wasn't just about coins anymore. Arlene contacted her colleague at a laboratory affiliated with the New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology. Dr. Kwan Yamada was an expert in rare earth materials and space alloys. After weeks of analysis, he confirmed the impossible: the coin's unknown element had extraterrestrial isotopic ratios. That meant the material didn't originate on Earth. The idea that such a metal was somehow incorporated into a US mint penny was so absurd it bordered on conspiracy theory. But all tests confirmed the same result. News started to leak in whispers. A member of a collectors' forum hinted at an alien penny being discovered. Coin blogs picked up the story, and within days, YouTube was ablaze with speculation. Most people thought it was a hoax. That changed when a well-known billionaire collector, Claude Raventon, issued a public statement. He wanted to purchase the coin. His offer? $120 million. Gerald was stunned. He hadn't even decided whether he believed the coin's origin story, let alone what he wanted to do with it, but things escalated quickly. A shadowy figure, known only as Midas, outbid Raventon with a $250 million cash offer and sent a private jet to New Mexico to retrieve the coin. Gerald declined. He started getting followed. Surveillance cameras around his home picked up unmarked SUVs cruising by late at night. He was offered money to disappear. That's when the federal government stepped in. 2 agents from an undisclosed branch of the Treasury Department arrived unannounced at Gerald's door. They identified themselves with only code names, Agent Candler and Agent Huxley. They confiscated the coin under the pretense of national security and told Gerald he would be fairly compensated. But Gerald wasn't going to let it go that easily. He had made dozens of copies, high-resolution scans, alloy reports, and even 3D laser models. He contacted a reporter named Naomi Feldman, who worked for a tech mystery investigative site. Naomi was skeptical, but the evidence Gerald showed her was overwhelming. She launched an exposé. The public outcry was enormous. People demanded to know why a supposedly worthless coin had been taken by federal agents, and why it contained an unearthly alloy. Congress held a quiet, classified hearing. Meanwhile, rumors emerged that the Denver Mint had run an experimental project in 2003 under the direction of a top-secret DARPA initiative. The idea had been to test the minting capabilities of memory metals that could resist warping and be self-healing. The coins were never supposed to leave the facility, but one had, and it ended up in a jar of junk in New Mexico. More offers rolled in. A Saudi prince offered $430 million, contingent on proof of authenticity and delivery in person. A tech CEO wanted it for his private museum, promising $500 million and a donation to scientific research. But Gerald didn't have the coin anymore. The government did. And when pressured, they admitted, publicly, that the coin was being held in a secure facility for study, but would not confirm the existence of alien material. They dismissed the extraterrestrial theory as unsupported. But people weren't buying it. Then came the biggest twist. A team of rogue scientists, operating anonymously, released new data. Using some of Gerald's original scans, they reconstructed a digital model of the coin's alloy structure and submitted it for simulation in a quantum computation environment. The results suggested that the coin's molecular pattern wasn't random. It carried a binary sequence, encoded information at the atomic level. When decoded, it revealed a repeating mathematical sequence that aligned with the prime distribution of known quasars in our observable universe. The coin wasn't just made of alien metal. It was a message. That revelation exploded online. Forums across the world speculated about its purpose. Was it a marker left behind by intelligent life? A forgotten artifact buried in Earth's minting process? Or was it a government project gone too far? A black-budget program experimenting with materials from a crashed UFO, accidentally releasing the artifact into circulation. People flooded to coin shops, checking every 2003 cent they could find. It became a modern gold rush. Prices for ordinary 2003 pennies shot up overnight. Collectors hoarded them, hoping another anomaly might surface. But none did, until one day, in a remote village in Wyoming, a boy named Caleb Donovan found a penny stuck between the floorboards of his grandmother's attic. It was dull and dusty. But when cleaned, it revealed the same triangular engraving Gerald had discovered years earlier. The world went wild again. Caleb's family auctioned the coin through a private Swiss brokerage. The winning bid? $671 million. The buyer remained anonymous, but the coin was insured by Lloyd's of London and authenticated by an independent panel of experts, including Dr. Yamada and Arlene Vasquez, and just like that, a 1-cent coin had become the most expensive coin in history. But the mystery didn't end there. Over the next decade, 5 more coins appeared, each in seemingly random places: the walls of a demolished bank in Chicago, a sunken safe recovered from a cargo ship near Guam, an old vending machine in Nebraska, the locked drawer of an unused desk in the Library of Congress, and inside a time capsule buried in 1971 and opened during a school ceremony in Florida. Each coin had similar properties: alien alloy, encoded binary, and astronomical references. But none had the exact same markings as the original 2. Experts believe the coins form a set, a sequence. Perhaps there are more out there. Perhaps each coin is a piece of something greater, a message, a puzzle, a guide. To this day, no official government confirmation has acknowledged the origin of the coins. But collectors, scientists, and theorists alike continue the hunt. Gerald Minton now lives in a secured home funded by private investors. Arlene Vasquez lectures around the world about material science and cryptology. And the coin that started it all? Still held in government custody. Or so they say. Thanks for watching this unbelievable journey through mystery, history, and mind-blowing discovery. Don't forget, every coin tells a story. And some stories are worth hundreds of millions. Next, 2014 D1 cent USA coin, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and every pocket change discovery could turn into a life-altering story. Today's tale takes us into the depths of one of the most shocking finds in American numismatic history, a journey that started in complete obscurity and ended with an earth-shattering valuation of $541 million. This isn't just a story about money or rare coins. This is a tale of fate, mystery, secrecy, and an artifact that carries far more than just copper and zinc. This is the legend of the 2014 D1 cent coin, the coin that became the most guarded and debated treasure in the modern world. It all began in the dusty streets of Thornton, Colorado, in the early spring of 2022. Thornton, not far from Denver, was the kind of place where people knew their neighbors, kids still played outside until dusk, and local legends were more likely to involve fishing trips than federal agents. But the town's unassuming character was exactly why the story that unfolded there caught everyone so off guard. A man named Devin Leary, a 35-year-old forklift operator and self-proclaimed garage sale addict, had a simple passion: finding strange things that others overlooked. Devin had spent over a decade browsing estate sales, thrift shops, and flea markets, usually walking away with dusty comic books or old coffee tins. He had no special training, no experience with rare coins, and certainly no expectations that anything he found would ever change his life. On a Saturday morning in April, Devin stopped by a neighborhood garage sale just outside Thornton's historic district. A widow named Miriam was selling off her late husband's collection of odds and ends: golf clubs, old radios, World War II memorabilia. On a folding card table sat a jar full of loose change, marked 5 cents each. Devin glanced at it, mostly out of habit. He wasn't looking for coins that day, but one coppery glint caught his eye: a bright penny, oddly unblemished, sitting at the very bottom. The jar was mostly filled with nickels and dimes, but this one stood out. He reached in, felt its weight, and immediately noticed something odd. It was heavier than a regular penny. Not by much, just enough for someone paying attention to notice. He flipped it over. The obverse had Lincoln's profile like every modern cent, but the contours were sharper, the details more defined. The date read 2014, and the tiny D mint mark under the date indicated it had been struck at the Denver Mint. But that wasn't what struck him. Beneath Lincoln's profile was a nearly imperceptible mark, almost like a fingerprint, but not random, deliberate, etched. Devin couldn't make it out without squinting. He held it up to the sunlight. The mark was shaped like a labyrinth. Thinking it might just be a novelty coin or a misstrike, Devin bought it without hesitation, handed over a quarter for 5 pennies, and didn't say another word about it. That night, curious, he pulled out his cheap USB microscope and examined the coin again. What he saw would send him spiraling into a rabbit hole that consumed his life for the next 2 years. the labyrinth mark wasn't just a design flaw or random etching. It was composed of microscopic grooves, structured in layers that formed geometric sequences. Devon posted a photo on Reddit, asking if anyone had seen anything like it. The post blew up. Within hours, numismatists, conspiracy theorists, and even metallurgists chimed in. Some claimed it was a minting error. Others insisted it was a coded message. A few users pointed out that the labyrinth symbol matched an ancient Sumerian pattern used in tablets now housed in the Louvre. The next day, Devon received a private message from a user with the handle CoinCipher. The user asked to meet in person, claimed to be a former Mint employee, and offered proof that he had worked on a classified project at the Denver Mint in 2013. Against his better judgment, Devon agreed. They met in a diner off I-25. The man was in his 60s, thin, jittery, and kept glancing around. He showed Devon a flash drive and said only one sentence before sliding it across the table: "This isn't just a penny, it's a seal." Devon took the flash drive home and opened its contents: dozens of PDF documents marked confidential, blueprints for an experimental minting press, and internal emails between high-level officials within the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. One file was simply labeled Project Labyrinth. It outlined a top-secret initiative to embed data into coins, not just visually, but physically, at the atomic level. Using techniques derived from classified military projects, they had embedded quantum-locked data within metal alloys, effectively creating coins that could store encrypted information. Only 23 such coins had ever been struck. Devon's coin, the 2014 D1 cent he had bought for 5 cents at a garage sale, matched the metadata of coin number 11. The information encoded within it wasn't listed, only that it was classified beyond top secret. The documents revealed that coin 11 was never recovered after an unauthorized batch was accidentally released during a night shift on April 3, 2014. A technician named Jeremy Caro had apparently taken home a tray of coins to test his homemade coin sorter. Jeremy had died in a car crash later that year. His personal belongings had been returned to his wife, Miriam. Devon realized with growing horror that the coin he now possessed was never supposed to be found. He began receiving calls from unlisted numbers. He was followed. His home internet was interrupted for days. One morning, he returned home from work to find his house had been broken into, but nothing stolen, except the USB flash drive. He knew he couldn't keep the coin out in the open. He hid it in a false-bottomed thermos and reached out to a reporter at the Denver Ledger. The reporter, Kayla Monroe, was skeptical at first but intrigued enough to listen. When Devon showed her the coin under magnification, she immediately called in an expert, Dr. Philip Worden, a materials physicist at the Colorado School of Mines. Dr. Worden ran spectral analyses and magnetic resonance imaging. The coin's structure showed patterns he described as non-random quantum entanglement nodes, something he'd only seen discussed in theoretical papers. According to him, the coin's molecular alignment suggested it was not just unusual, it was artificially constructed to host multi-layered data. He estimated that with the right decryption sequence, the coin could store over 500 terabytes of quantum-locked information. The implications were staggering. What kind of data had the government embedded in such a coin? Why had it been disguised as ordinary currency? And more urgently, how had it slipped into public hands? Kayla's article ran online 3 days later. She had no idea what kind of chaos she had just unleashed. The story went viral overnight. News networks picked it up. The US Mint issued a vague denial. The Department of Treasury said the coin in question was not recognized as official currency. But the genie was out of the bottle. Within a week, 2 foreign governments issued statements demanding that the United States account for any currency-based data storage projects that might violate international agreements. The stock market jittered. Investors in quantum encryption technologies saw massive spikes. And Devon, he vanished. The last known footage of Devon Leary was captured at a gas station in Colorado Springs. He was filling up a car registered to a friend. After that, No one saw him again. The coin, however, surfaced months later. A private collector known only as Sigmar claimed ownership and had the coin authenticated through a secretive panel of cryptographers, scientists, and former intelligence operatives. Sigmar announced through a proxy that he had successfully extracted partial data from the coin. The contents were described as a MetaMap, a digital skeleton key capable of decrypting any military-grade quantum lock designed before 2014. He put the coin up for private auction. Bidding started at $100 million and quickly escalated. The winning bid was made by a defense consortium backed by 3 multinational tech firms. The final price? $541 million. The coin was flown by military escort to an undisclosed vault in Geneva. Every person involved in the transport signed non-disclosure agreements and underwent biometric verification, and just like that, the 2014 D1 cent became the most expensive and controversial coin in human history. The story hasn't ended. Not even close. Some believe there are more coins out there. Project Labyrinth allegedly struck 23, but only 17 have been confirmed accounted for. That leaves 6 unaccounted for. Theories abound. Some say they were melted down. Others believe they're still in circulation. A few claim that the coins were seeded across the country deliberately, like breadcrumbs leading to a deeper secret. The labyrinth mark remains a topic of debate. Was it simply a design flaw or a signature of the engineers? Or was it something more? A warning? A symbol? A guide? And what was the real purpose of embedding secrets in common coins? Was it a form of deniable data storage? A way to transmit classified information under the nose of every surveillance system on Earth? To this day, no official agency has claimed responsibility for Project Labyrinth. The Denver Mint refuses to discuss it. All FOIA requests have been denied. But the coin's existence is no longer rumor. Its $541 million price tag confirmed its value not just in metal, but in the power of the secrets it carries. So check your change, because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest stories, and maybe, just maybe, the next world-altering coin is already in your pocket. Until next time, keep searching, keep questioning. Last 2000 D1 cent USA coin, where legends are born in the palm of your hand and the most valuable treasures can slip through the cracks of everyday life. Today, we bring you the astonishing and mysterious tale of the 2000 D1 cent coin that stunned the world with a jaw-dropping value of $329 million. This isn't just about copper and zinc or a simple minting anomaly. This is a story that weaves together missing shipments, lost identities, suppressed secrets, and a discovery so powerful it shifted the foundations of global markets and underground networks alike. What follows is the shocking saga of how one forgotten penny changed the course of modern history. It all started in the summer of 2021 in a remote corner of New Mexico, where a retired long-haul trucker named Harris Lovell had spent his golden years scavenging abandoned barns and derelict gas stations. Harris wasn't a collector, not in the traditional sense. He wasn't interested in value, just in stories. He called it junk picking, but to him, every rusted can, broken toy, or old glove box manual held echoes of someone's life. He had been all over the country during his trucking days, and now, living alone in a town that wasn't on most maps, he filled his time exploring back roads and crumbling structures left behind by Time Point one morning, while scouring a dilapidated auto repair shop that had burned down decades ago. Harris stumbled on a steel lockbox hidden beneath a rotted floorboard. It was dented, rusted shut, and took nearly an hour of careful hammering and prying with a crowbar to open. Inside were 2 things: a faded leather journal wrapped in a plastic bag and a metal tin that looked like it had once held peppermints. When he popped it open, Harris found a dozen coins of varying age and origin, most heavily tarnished. But one of them, a penny minted in the year 2000, gleamed unnaturally in the half-dash light. At first glance, it looked ordinary. It bore the familiar image of Lincoln on the front and the Denver D Mint mark beneath the date. But Harris, who had spent years staring at ordinary things until they gave up their secrets, knew something was different. The coin was slightly off in color, not copper, not steel, something in between. He tilted it back and forth under the sun coming through the cracked windows. It gave off a faint iridescence, like oil on water. Curiosity led him to his ancient laptop. Harris didn't have internet at home, but he occasionally visited the local library, one of the few places in the county with a reliable connection. He looked up rare pennies, minting errors, special alloys. The closest match he could find was a reference to a rumored batch of experimental alloy coins tested at the Denver Mint in early 2000, part of a program allegedly scrapped before launch. No official documentation existed. It was only mentioned in the comments of a 10-year-old coin forum thread that had since been deleted, but Harris wasn't one to let things go. He packed the coin up, brought it to the town's only jeweler, a man named McGill who dabbled in metallurgy and appraisals. McGill took one look at it and scratched his head. The coin passed all tests for authenticity, but its metallic composition was unlike anything he had seen. More tests followed, and that's when things got strange. The coin wasn't magnetic, yet responded faintly to high-frequency sound waves. It was denser than a standard penny and contained microscopic patterns beneath the surface visible only under a scanning electron microscope. McGill reached out to a contact in Colorado Springs who had access to advanced equipment at a private lab. When the coin was examined under laboratory conditions, results came back showing the presence of a rare alloy never used in U.S. coinage, one rumored to be developed in conjunction with DARPA for military-grade data shielding and resonance encoding. The lab report stated that the coin's material could, theoretically, act as a physical cipher key if used with the right frequency modulation. It wasn't just metal, it was a component. Word got out. At first, only a handful of insiders in the numismatic world heard about it. They speculated it might be the long-rumored Echo coin, a mythical piece of currency designed to act as a portable encryption key during Y2K contingency operations. According to whispers, the US government had minted fewer than 10 of these coins, intending them as a failsafe for critical systems access. When the Y2K crisis passed without major incident, the project was shelved. All known Echo coins were said to have been destroyed, except for one that mysteriously vanished from Denver Mint records in February of 2000. Harris, now growing increasingly anxious, was contacted by a private collector based in Zurich who offered him $5 million, sight unseen, for the coin. Harris declined. That same night, someone broke into McGill's shop. Nothing was stolen, but the office was trashed. Files missing. Hard drives taken. It was clear someone didn't want the coin identified. So Harris did what few would expect. He contacted a woman named Eliza Trent, a former investigative reporter turned podcaster who had exposed federal mishandling of classified tech in her earlier career. Eliza flew out 2 days later, bringing with her 2 technical advisors and a camera crew. What began as an interview quickly evolved into a full-blown investigation that took them across several states, diving into restricted patent databases, interviewing former Mint employees, and tracing the provenance of the coin's unusual alloy. The journal found with the coin added more pieces to the puzzle. It belonged to a man named Gabriel Thorne, a metallurgist who worked on a short-lived top-secret project in early 2000 at the Denver Mint. Thorne had died under mysterious circumstances in late 2001. His journal contained cryptic notes, diagrams of alloy bonding structures, and repeated references to something called resonant identity encoding, a theoretical way of encoding biometric data into metallic lattices, making a coin not just currency, but an encrypted identity capsule. What Harris had found, it seemed, wasn't just a 1-cent piece. It was a sealed identifier, carrying locked data that could, in the right hands, grant access to the encrypted remains of the Echo project, an operation so secret its existence was denied even by those who had worked on it. At the heart of it was the belief that information, in a post-digital collapse world, would need to be stored in analog mediums that couldn't be remotely hacked or deleted. The coin was a cipher, a key, and a backup all-in-one. Eliza's team, after months of cross-referencing documents and speaking to insiders who had agreed to speak off the record, traced the alloy to a small defense contractor in Nevada. The plant had been closed since 2003, after a mysterious explosion blamed on a testing malfunction. They obtained archived employee records that included Gabriel Thorne. According to company memos, he had raised concerns about the misuse of the alloy's capabilities, particularly regarding the storage of neural maps harvested from top-security individuals. In plain terms, someone had figured out how to use a penny to store the blueprint of a person's consciousness. The implications were staggering. As the story gained traction, powerful interests closed in. A private security firm hired by an anonymous bidder attempted to intercept Eliza's team in Kansas City. The encounter ended with no injuries, but it confirmed suspicions that the coin was considered more than a collector's item. Federal agencies declined comment. Multiple requests for interviews were denied. Then came the auction. Eliza, determined to protect the coin from those who would bury it, partnered with a consortium of transparency advocates, former intelligence officers, and secure data custodians. Together, they hosted a sealed digital auction on an encrypted blockchain platform. The starting bid was set at $1 million. Within minutes, it surged to 10. Then 50. Bidders came from every continent, multinational corporations, secretive investment trusts, even 2 national governments. By the end of the third day, the coin sold for $329 million to a buyer identified only as Synclave Group, an organization registered in Liechtenstein with holdings in defense, AI development, and neurodata research. Since the acquisition, Synclave has released no public statements. All known team members who helped investigate the coin have signed non-disclosure agreements. Harris Lovell disappeared shortly after the sale. His home was found abandoned, car keys left in the ignition, his possessions untouched. Some believe he entered witness protection. Others think he was silenced. What remains is a legacy of questions. Is the Echo project still active? Were other coins made? If the 2000 D1 cent could store neural blueprints, what else has been hidden in plain sight? Was this a government experiment, a rogue operation, or something even deeper, a multinational shadow effort to control information through analog means? No one can say for certain, but what is known, indisputably, is that one ordinary-looking penny, minted in Denver and lost for decades, emerged to become the most valuable 1-cent coin in the history of mankind. And maybe, just maybe, it was never about the money. Maybe it was about control. Keep your eyes open, and your change jars closer, because in a world of digital uncertainty, the smallest relics carry the greatest weight. And sometimes, a penny is the price of everything.